Hello and welcome along to the Rangers Rabble podcast. I'm Martin, your host, and it is good to be back. Don't you just hate it when you're halfway through the intro and pops on Twitter, notification for Rangers, and you go, oh, please don't be some breaking news. Anyway, I'm joined by Cammy, Wilf and Scott. Guys, hello, good evening. We are live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. If you're watching on any of those platforms, please do like, subscribe and share. We're about 35, I think, 39 away from 2K on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Cammy, how are you?
Very well. Just nearly the weekend and another Rangers game, so all good.
Showing off that nice, fine, new, what would you call it, picture you've got behind you with a lovely frame?
Yep, another expensive one, but the kids will get the benefit when I'm not here.
I think that's what we all tell ourselves, isn't it? Scott, how are you? It's good to see you. I've not seen you for a while.
I'm not bad, Martin. Hope you're good and hope you enjoyed your holiday.
I did. I'm pretty rusty about coming back because that was a terrible introduction. Wolf, with your stream looking phenomenal, how are you?
Let's not tempt fate, Martin. I'm fine, thanks. Yeah.
I'd just like to say good evening to CGM. Peaceful Warrior already, some pictures, Cammy. I know Peaceful Warrior is a show-off, so he is. And Curry Muncher, good evening to you as well. Right, let's start then with the news that was announced today, Scott, that we are going to have a quality pre-season friendly in a line with our 150th anniversary with a certain club called Real Madrid, I think, is it?
Yeah, I've seen the breaking news today. It's quite encouraging to see something like Real Madrid come to Ibrox to grace 150 years like Glasgow Rangers, but I'm just hoping some fans are allowed in. Hopefully we're all allowed in, but I'm just hoping at least some are allowed in.
I know that it would be a shame, Wolf, wouldn't it? I mean, how often? I mean, when was the last time? In fact, Wolf, you were probably obviously at the game, but when was the last time Rangers played Real Madrid?
Never played them in my lifetime, believe it or not. I've only ever played them once, and it was in 1963, I think. They beat us 1-0 at Ibrox and beat us 6-0 away in a European Cup game. It's been one of my lifelong dreams is to watch Rangers play Real Madrid. And as Scott says, the time we get to play them, there's probably going to be hardly anybody in the stadium. You know, if Nicola's watching this, and I know Nicola will be watching this because she's obsessed with the Rangers. Just open the gates and let us rejoin our mates, Nicola. Please let us in. Let us go to the games.
Oh, open the gates, let us rejoin my mates.
I do have.
We'll just stop that one right there.
Nicola's a big fan of the Rangers Rabble. I don't know if you know about that.
I know she is, right?
A massive fan of Rangers Rabble. Just a big hello to everybody in the comments. I'm seeing loads and loads of comments. Cammy, it is a pre-season friendly like no other, I suppose. We've played in Europe against the likes of, we've played Barcelona, Manchester United, but there's just something special about Real Madrid, isn't there?
It's a bit like Wolf says, it's a bucket list. I'm not quite as regular a European traveller now as Wolf is, but I've always wanted to see Rangers play in the Bernabeu. The fact Rangers coming to Ibrox, I'm optimistic that we will have Real Madrid in the group stages of the Champions League in a few months' time. So even if we only have a handful of fans at the game on the 25th of July, I think we will play them again before the end of this year. You know, I mean, I think it's just the white strip. It's just, the aura of Real Madrid, and say Bale's going to be playing and guys like that. You know, it's you just hope that common sense prevails, but I'm a bit like Wolf. I'm not particularly optimistic that we will be allowed a sizable number of fans in.
Cammy, you realise that you've just set everybody up for a conspiracy theory if and when we draw Real Madrid.
I love a good conspiracy theory. I love them.
Maybe I should move the game to Wembley and get 50,000 in.
To be honest with you, I did say that today. I think if Rangers just contacted the likes of Newcastle or Sunderland or something like that, and we'll just play the game, there and pack their stadium sort of thing, But it's
can we not just tell them we're playing rugby and we'll get 18? Can we not just tell them we're playing rugby and we'll get 18,000 in?
Well, I mean, if you want to go right into it, there was 67,000 at Wembley yesterday. So how can they justify?
But that's not under Nicola's remit, though.
I know, but even when it goes back to the Premier League, they won't get anywhere near the capacities they're getting for the Euros. So it's a lot of rubbish anyway. But I mean, that's the thing, Scott. Do you expect us to have? I mean, I don't know what 2,000, 4,000 in by then.
I think there'll be some fans, but I don't think there'll be many. And the problem with having some fans is how do they decide fan is? Is it who you know? Is it your jersey number? Is it my jersey? Or season ticket holders? Or you're pals with David Edgar? What happens? We don't know.
Anyway, swiftly moving on for that. There, Stuart.
See the thing about I remember being on a pod a couple of months ago, and my optimistic approach at that point was that July would be used as test events, which any country that is doing this properly and any football authorities, Rangers have got 3 home friendlies during July. The other side of the city have probably got a similar amount. We are the biggest stadiums. So the first friendly against Arsenal, you have 12,500. The next game, you have 20,000. The next game after that, you have 25,000. Just as an example, that's what should be happening. There's more than enough social distancing, physical distancing, whatever you want. There's just no. Compare the way that the English authorities, football authorities, are driving this to try and get fans back in the stadium. The people that run the game in this country, never mind the fact that the Scottish government don't know what they're doing. The SPFL and the SFA have been an absolute disgrace throughout this whole thing. No interest in the customers.
The thing is, Cammy, they're not going to use it as test events, particularly the Arsenal game, because I believe that lot in the East End have got a game that night at 5:30 at home. It might be Fulham, I don't know. I don't really pay much attention to their fixtures, but I believe they've got a fixture the same, so a couple of hours after us. They'll turn around and say that the streets won't be able to cope with even 12,000 getting into both stadiums, which is an absolute lot of nonsense. But as Cammy says, what
they're doing for events. They're letting people who are vaccinated twice get in the stadium, and they're letting people who are unvaccinated sit in social distance areas. So I don't know if they could look at doing that.
No, but they're turning around and saying you can have, after the 19th of July, you can have 2,000 folk in. And then all of a sudden, from the 9th of August, you can have a full stadium. So you can go from on the Saturday having 2,000 in to the following Tuesday if you've got a game being bursting at the seams. To me, that makes absolutely no sense at all.
Well, we've got a good comment actually for CGM who says football in England is a multi-billion pound business and in Scotland it's not. And to be fair, that's probably the main reason why. I've also got a comment here from Stuart Henderson who says True Blues loyal or no more. Sadly, James is retiring from online, so I need a new podcast to watch. Obviously, that came out today. Stuart, mate, you're always welcome to watch us. We might talk a lot of nonsense, but you're more than welcome to watch anyway. But look, moving on swiftly from that, because I didn't expect a friendly announcement against Real Madrid to be taken so negatively by Use Free, but there you go. Obviously, we've signed John Lundstram. Lundstrom. Somebody's going to need to tell me how to pronounce that name properly. But before we discuss it, earlier in the week, I sat down and spoke with Nick from the Sheff United Way Podcast. I apologise right now for the top he's wearing. I did have a go at him for it off air. But take a look at what he's had to say. We'll discuss it. Make sure you keep your comments coming and we'll be back very, very shortly. Sheff United Way Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Rangers Rabble. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Apart from, as just discussed, my dog's going absolutely off its nut, which normal viewers will understand and know. Obviously, we've got you here to discuss a certain Mr. John Lundstram. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. A man who I didn't realise was actually English until I heard his interview. So if you could
He's not English. He's not English, he's Scouse.
Oh, he's Scouse, I know. Hey, I'm not even getting into that debate because our manager's Scouse, so I'm not getting into that debate. So if you could maybe just kind of start by telling us what kind of player he is, both kind of on and off the park.
Okay, well, It's a tough one to say this because we've had a lot of different John Lundstroms in the last 4 seasons. He came in to replace a fellow Scotsman, Paul Cooks. Fellow Scotsman to you, that is, not to Lundstrom. And Paul Cooks was excellent for us. And when he came in, we expected him to be kind of that replacement for Paul Cooks, which he wasn't at all. So he came in as the wrong style of player that we needed at that point. The season after, when we got promoted from the Championship to the Premier League, he hardly played. He played 12 games, which I think most of them were in the Cup. So we expected to move him on that season, in all honesty. We didn't think he would be a Premier League player. But Chris Wilder changed our style of football, and we played a defensive midfielder and then a left-sided and a right-sided player. Obviously, you know John Fleck. John Fleck plays on the left-hand side and Lundstrom played on the right. And both full of running, and that's what we needed from them. So Lundstrom went from not getting a game in the Championship to being one of our best players in the Premier League in the space of a few months, which was really, really odd. What I will say is what he's really, really good at. He's got a great engine when he wants to, that is. He arrives in the box late, very, very good, like a kind of Frank Lampard sort of midfielder, where he just knows when to make that darting run into the box, and obviously midfielders can't pick him up, and the defenders aren't expecting it. So you'll probably see a lot of that from him, depending on how Stevie G plays him. I think the thing is with Lundstrom, he's very poor. Well, he gets stuck in, but he's very poor at kind of anticipating a tackle. He kind of tries to jump in and then completely misses the ball and the man and everyone sometimes. He's got a lot of good things to his game, but he's also got a lot of poor things to his game. And I think really it depends on whether he kind of puts it in, because we spoke about this off air, and I think a lot of Rangers fans will have seen a lot of negative things said about John Lundstrom. And the reason for that is I think he got his head turned by Stevie G months and months and months ago. We didn't have the best start to the season. We had a really poor season last season. We're not going to go into that. A lot of injuries, a lot of people playing not as well as they had done the season before and the season before that. And I really think that Lundstrom kind of I don't think he initially down tools. I think he lost a bit of form because he had a few poor games. He was putting it in, but he was missing the chances that he were putting away the season before. And then I think the fans were getting on his back because Chris Wilder came out and said that he'd not signed this contract, and it sounded like it was quite a lucrative deal that made him one of the top players, one of the top best paid players at the club. And I think Lundstrom, it came out that he wanted to be the top paid player at the club, and really he wasn't that player. He wasn't. He shouldn't have ever been anywhere near, because he had probably 2 or 3 really, really good months last season in the Premier League. And your question, is he a Premier League footballer? He could be. He really, really could be if he put the effort in all the time and played at the top of his game. But for me, it still remains to be seen, because we've seen a really good John Lundstrom in the Premier League and a really poor one that didn't want to put it in. So it's quite difficult. Obviously, the Scottish League, I'm not going to get into this debate about where it kind of sits within the English game, but it's not as good as kind of like the top tier teams in the Premier League. But I think John Lundstrom is a perfect signing for you guys, in all honesty. I think that he will play really well for his kind of mentor in Stevie G. Yeah, I believe he is a Liverpool fan as well, even though he came through at Everton. I think he plays quite similar to Steven Gerrard, where you probably thought that from me saying, oh, he darts about, he gets forward, he gets back. He's definitely a box-to-box player. So I think he'll be trying his best to play well for Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, he's definitely a Liverpool fan. I think he actually came out and said that in his interview, and I think that's why the Rangers fans won't be as worried. I think as yourselves about down in tools or whatever, because he's got. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to Chris Wilder. He's got that that mystique and such high regard for Gerrard. I didn't really want to go into the whole down in tools debate, but do you think it might? Do you think it might have been a case that there might have been an issue with Wilder, or do you think it was because he wanted to move, or do you think it was just a culmination of everything?
I think it's a culmination of everything. I don't think it's necessarily Wilder per se, but what happened was we brought in Sander Berge last season for 22 million. I think we eventually saw him playing in defensive midfield, but I think Chris Wilder could see him playing in Lundstrom's role. So as soon as we bought Sander Berge, I think Lundstrom was he was playing okay, but he wasn't banging the goals in like he was earlier on in the season. And this was kind of January time. And Chris Wilder played Sander Berge straight away. The away game at Crystal Palace, the fans made a song up for Sander Berge, singing his name. And I think it just pushed his nose out of joint a little bit. Mm-hmm. A couple of games later, Sander Berge was starting every game. John Lundstram came on as a sub, scored against Bournemouth at home, and his celebration certainly suggested that he wasn't happy. He was pointing at himself like, "Look what I've just done!" And when it was a last-minute winner as well, so it's something that you expect him to go crazy, jumping into the crowd and celebrate with the fans and all that. But it was very much about, "I'm still here, I'm still the man," sort of thing. So I wonder whether he's got not a chip on his shoulder, but I wonder whether he's thinks he's going to be this great player, and it still remains to be seen. I think he can be. I think he's got all the attributes to be a great player. It's just whether his head's right for it.
Do you think it's maybe similar to a kind of a Joey Barton type figure then, that kind of mentality?
Possibly, in a way. I don't think he's quite as hot-headed as Joey Barton. He's been...
Which is good for Scotland, because he will, if he's hot-headed in Scotland, he will get sent off a lot.
Yeah. I think he will get his fair share of bookings and red cards. He certainly got one last season when the ball was kind of just in the middle of the park to be won, and kind of threw himself over the ball. And it's things like that where it's like, just use your head a bit more. I don't think he's as intelligent a footballer as he probably thinks. Whereas that ball against Brighton when he got sent off was there to be won. You've just got to have a bit of nous about you and go in cautiously, but knowing that you're going to win that ball. And I think at that point, everything went out of the window for him. He wanted to be the man. I'm going to put this great tackle in. I'm going to shoot from 25, 30 yards and try and score, because that's what he was doing last season. It felt like all he wanted to do was grab the headlines, be goal of the month or whatever on Match of the Day, because we were at the back end of Match of the Day pretty much every game last season for obvious reasons. And I think that John Lundstrom, if everybody saw Lundstrom put the ball in the top corner, they'd be like, "Wow, what a great player." Whereas he had so many opportunities to play someone in, and he was just being completely and utterly just all for himself.
Selfish. Yeah.
Yes, completely selfish. They were playing Hollywood balls constantly, where a quick 1-2 would have got us up the field quicker. And I just feel like he was all about himself last season. And he must have taken a good 20, 30 long shots that were just not on at all last season. And that's what also really annoyed the fans as well, I think.
I suppose in some ways having that kind of selfish mentality can work in a positive way as long as it's used correctly. And I just kind of hope that maybe, Gerrard, McAllister, Liverpool legends there might kind of get the best out of him, and he maybe listens when he's told, "Listen, don't do this, don't do that, but do this and do that." But again, I kind of mentioned it a minute ago, and you touched on it as well. Look, the Premier League in England and the Scottish League, there's no comparison in terms of quality because of the money and everything else that goes with it. So in the Scottish game, it's a lot more fast-paced. You don't get a lot of time on the ball. People are constantly kicking you in the shins, kicking you from behind, grabbing your armpit hair and getting away with it. So would that be a worry kind of for you, because you've kind of touched on the mentality thing of Lindstrom being able to kind of cope with that?
It's difficult, really, because that sounds like something that he would be well up for, but at the same time, will he have the mentality for it? I think it just depends how he settles in, because like I said, that could be his game down to a T. But he's great on the ball. He's got 2 great feet. But yeah, like you say, he might pick up a red card here and there. But from what I've seen from these Rangers Celtic derbies, that's what you like to see.
Well, yeah, it just depends on what referee you've got. That's the main thing. Obviously, we've seen. I think kind of Chris Wilder kind of broke the mould a wee bit with tactics where he had these kind of 2 centre backs, kind of flying forward, almost kind of becoming centre forward. So, what was kind of Lundstrom's role at Lundstrom? I'm going to have to pronounce that at some point. What was kind of his role within that Sheffield United midfield? Obviously, what I've heard is box to box, so defending, going forward, shooting. What was his kind of main role?
Well, first of all, I will say we've always said John Lundstrom, but maybe that's us. I think that it's definitely like a Swedish name or something like that. So we're probably all pronounced. But we're English and Scottish. We're going to pronounce it wrong. Let's be honest. For John Lundstrom, though, the role that he was playing was definitely a right-hand-sided central midfielder. As we didn't play with wingers or wide men at all, we played with wing-backs getting high up the pitch. And what Fleck and Lundstrom's jobs were kind of joining the attacks down the wings. So playing quick 1-2s with the fullback, with the overlapping centre back, as you just alluded to, and staying quite wide at times, because there were a couple of times where Lundstrom got the ball on the kind of on the right hand side, kind of just outside the 18, and whipping it into the box and try and get it onto the strikers' heads, and really. Him and Fleck were supposed to be these kind of arrive late, kind of into the box or on the edge of the box to create chances or maybe score goals. And for us last season, neither of them really did that because of how negative we were with all the injuries that we had and poor form. But with Lundstrom, like I said, he's definitely box to box. I think his attacking side of his game is definitely better than his defensive side. Like I said, he's got 2 great feet. He can whip a ball into the box, no problem. He can put a ball on a sixpence, no problem at all. I've never actually seen him score a goal from outside the box. So if he starts hitting balls from outside the box, tell him to stop because he can't shoot.
I don't think he'll listen to me, but I'll do my best.
But yeah, that's it really. He played in a funny little system of ours, as you said earlier.
I liked it. I must admit, I liked it.
It's a great system watch when it's played well and everyone's played at the top of the game. When they're not, it's very frustrating to watch, and you definitely lose that attack down the middle because we never ever attacked through the middle, and that really frustrated us because when one side's not doing it, the other side, it's kind of all the ball was going down the right for us last season, and it's so easy to mark. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's going to be weird for Lundstrom. I don't know how you're going to play him because he's been playing this system for 2 seasons now. So it might take some kind of knocking out of him to kind of get him into playing your system, however you want to play him, whether it's a more attacking role or a more defensive role.
But see, it's weird because we have just our fullbacks are just like right wingers. Rangers kind of play a 4-3-3, one kind of defensive mid, 2 sit in front who try and join them with the attacks, and we have wing backs. So, listen, I hope it works out. From what I've seen, a lot of the Rangers fans are obviously really, really excited. Final question on this, how will John Lundstrom be remembered at Sheffield United?
I'm going to be honest, he'll be remembered in a really negative light because of how he's acted over the past season. I'm trying to be as kind of neutral as possible here, but it was quite... I don't think we'd have noticed if Chris Wilder didn't come out and say, John Lundstrom's not signing this contract. I think we wouldn't have noticed that he down tools as quickly as what we did, but it was quite clear in many games that he wasn't tracking back, that he wasn't making the runs that he was doing before. And I don't want to see that from him at Rangers. I really don't. I've got a feeling that he had his head turned early on. He had his nose put out of joint at Sheff United. So it all culminated in him not being happy and wanting to move on. And it's quite obvious that, like I say, he did down tools. But yeah, I think he'll give his all. I really, really do. I think he'll give his all for Rangers. And I think you'll have a really good player on your hands. But yeah, he'll definitely be remembered for all his poor games rather than his good games, because he was excellent at the start of last season, and we thought he was going to be a Sheff United player for a very, very long time, but yeah, it wasn't to be. A lot of things have happened, lots of water under the bridge. But no, I think he will be a good signing. I really, really do.
I really, really hope so. But it's really hard for you to be neutral, Nick, with that colour of top on. I have to mention it.
Yeah, we're red and white at the end of the day. We don't care. As long as it's not blue. If it's not blue and white, we don't care.
Oh, that's you've just made a mockery of the whole interview there, Nick. That's it. I'm only joking. If anybody obviously sees the title and tunes in from a Sheffield United perspective, Nick, how do they watch the Sheff United Way podcast?
Yeah, we're on YouTube. It's the Sheff United Way. We do obviously everything that us kind of YouTubers and podcasters do: match reactions, match previews, podcasts with ex-players and stuff like that. So you'll find us at Sheff United Way on every social media platform you can think of.
Well, see, we were on every social media platform, but I just get fed up with Instagram. But listen, Nick, it's been great having you on. Thanks very much, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
So there you go, Nick from the Sheff United Way podcast. Cammy, I'll let you come in first on Lundstrom and what you thought of the interview, and I'm going to troll through the comments because I think there's quite a few unhappy bears in the comments.
I don't think he was particularly enamoured by Lindstrom, which that came across. Didn't tell me anything I wasn't expecting, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, you access social media, that all that information was out there. He's probably right. If Steven Gerrard approached me to sign in January, my head would probably be turned as well. But playing for Sheffield United in a relegation side where they couldn't kick their own backside is very, very different to playing in a Rangers team that's going to dominate 75% possession in every game. It's going to suit his skill set. You know what I mean? I think he's going to be a right, I think I said on my own Twitter, he's going to be a right-sided number 8. And I think when he's up and firing, he will be part of Steven Gerrard's first choice starting 11. Well, for yourself, John Lundstrom and Nick's. But by the way, I do have to say, look, regardless of his point of view, it was really nice of him to come on at short notice and talk to him about Lundstrom last season. But Wolf, your thoughts on obviously what Nick had to say and on Lundstrom for your own point of view?
I think it's fairly obvious that Nick thinks he said it himself, he can have down tools. And the way I would read that, John Lundstrom knows he's a decent player. Sheffield United, as Cammy said, couldn't kick their own arse last season. I mean, they were really poor. He would have known early on in the season that they were only going one way, and that was down, because they really had a shocking season. And obviously, I mean, from Sheffield United's point of view, the man's seen out his contract and left for nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, if any of our players, not at the moment, we're sitting with Connor Goldson potentially doing that. Right? As much as we can see Cammy wincing there, as much as we don't want him to do that, if that's what happens, although we'd wish him well, we'd be a wee bit fucking annoyed, because, you know, the guy's worth money. John Lundstrom would have been worth money to Sheffield United, even if he left it in the January window, that I got something for him. So obviously the Sheffield United fans are going to be a wee bit hacked off with the leaving for nothing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, from what I've heard about him, he did well in the season. He got promoted. He did okay when they played okay in the first season in the Premiership, and then, as a man there said, he probably down tools because he realised he was playing in a poor side and he was leaving anyway. And particularly if he knew that Rangers were interested in him, he probably has been sounded out before, because, you know, there was rumours about sort of 6 or 8 months ago. So I mean, if I knew that Steven Gerrard was coming in for me, I wouldn't be throwing myself about and risking a potentially bad injury, which would put the skids on that.
I know, Scott. I'm going to ask your opinion, and then I'm going to disappear for 2 minutes because my dog has just went and got castor flavour out of the cupboard. So, Scott, give me your opinion, and I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Basically, I think the same as yourself, Cammy. Wolf. I think he seems a really good player. I spoke to a couple of scouts down in England who've seen him playing. Before he was at Oxford and stuff, and he said he's a really good player. He's technically good. He gets forward. he does have a goal in him. So I think for Rangers' point of view, it's a good signing for us going forward. The interview Martin done with the boy Nick was a decent interview. I quite enjoyed it. The guy's going to have an opinion. When somebody leaves your club, it's not a lot of fans when a player leaves your club, and a lot of fans don't like to say all the best and stuff like that, especially if you think they've down tools. So that's just an opinion football fans have. So I don't read too much into that. But if he comes to Rangers because he wanted to be here, especially Stevie G's manager, and he comes and puts a shift in every game, I'll be happy.
Well, obviously, I just missed everything of what you said there, Scott, but I'm going to take it that was a phenomenal point you just made there, buddy. Thanks very much. Cubby Cubster says, Gerrard and Rangers will only improve. Lundstrom, good addition to the midfield. The best is yet to come. Two-footed box-to-box attacking EPL midfielder, powerful and hard tackler. That'll do. And I think I kind of took that from what Nick said. And I think, can we just discuss a wee bit more about this whole down in tools debate? Because down in tools sounds as if a player just isn't trying at all, which isn't true. It might mean that he might not make that 5-yard burst every time, but I don't want there to be this thing out there about Lundstrom about, he just doesn't try, just doesn't play, because that's just not true.
See, to be honest with you, from a Sheffield United point of view, I think it's convenient just to pick on him, you know, because clearly there was issues with regard to hadn't signed his contract. Wilder had come out with or it said he wanted to be the top earner. So somebody within the club has thrown him under a bus with regard to releasing that information. So is it just him that down tools the fact that Sheffield United were so poor last season? You know, did Ollie McBurney no kick his own backside when this player and that player and John Fleck, and you know, I mean, I think it's convenient to use that. And listen, down in tools is commonly used. I don't believe any player, whether they're under a contract for 5 years or whether they're leaving in 5 weeks' time, deliberately stops trying, because it just doesn't happen. It's just a myth to say that anybody downs tools. I mean, it was said about Brian Laudrup in the 10 of the season when we were going for 10 that Laudrup down tools because he was going to Chelsea. No, he didn't down tools. He just didn't play to the level that he had in the previous 3 or 4 seasons, and there was other players in the team who didn't perform to the level, you know. But it's.
Well, on that point, Gabby, you've got to think if John to use John Fleck as an example, and I haven't seen a lot of Sheffield United, so I can't really comment too much. But if John Fleck had done any kind of season, I would have expected him to be in and around the Scotland squad. You know, playing regularly, because he's an EPL midfield player, albeit playing on a team that were getting relegated. But you know, so that would maybe kind of heighten your point that it was just the fact the team weren't playing particularly well, but because Lundstrom's left on a free, he is an easy scapegoat for them.
Also,
can I just hold on? Sorry, Scott.
No bother.
Douglas McIntyre, your dog can bake. My dog can do many things. And CGM, caster sugar, not flavour. No, I think it was caster sugar. I need to double check. But no, my dog is excellent at all things, including making cakes. Sorry, Scott, mate, on you go.
I was just going to say, Sheffield United 2 seasons ago, they were a surprise package. We're taking a lot of teams coming to attack them, and they couldn't really figure it out. Last season they did, so they were struggling. So Lundstrom wasn't the only one, and I think Cammy's right. I think because they refused to sign the extension to his deal, they knew he was going to walk away from now. They did kind of find the guy under a bus, but I also agree, I don't think players down tools. I think they do enough at times to get by, but I don't think they're down tools. I think like you, I think maybe they'll give that extra 5 yard at times. But they don't down tools. They're professional athletes and they play the game as they love to play football. But sometimes they've got to look after themselves as well. So down in tools to me doesn't happen.
No, absolutely not. And well, a fantastic point here for Darren Stewart, which shouldn't be missed. Character seems to be a key factor in the Gaffer and Ross Wilson's signings. They must be confident that any issues at Sheffield has been dealt with. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. And that's something that we do have to mention, because Steven Gerrard isn't stupid. Ross Wilson isn't stupid. If there was any serious issues, we wouldn't have signed them.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. As I said a moment ago, you know, the rumours about that we were signing the lad had been going on for quite a while. We've only announced it this week. Now, we could have announced the pre-contract signing of John Lundstrom back in January, you know. So, I mean, he was obviously on the radar back then. So you're probably right. We probably have taken that time to kind of assess his qualities as a man and see if he'll fit in, and the stuff that they look at, because it's not just the guy's ability on the park; it's whether he'll fit into the team, whether he's going to get on with everybody else, fit into the surroundings. So they probably have looked into that. My only concern with John Lundstrom, from what I know about him, is he does like a yellow card. And that worries me, because as you said during your interview with the lad for Sheff United Podcast, it depends what referee you get. But if you remember when Ryan Jack joined Rangers, Ryan Jack had hardly got a yellow card at Aberdeen. Then he got red card after red card after red card with us because he just signed for Rangers. I'm concerned that Lundstrom will get the same off of these officials that we've got here.
I know.
That concerns me a bit.
See, now you've mentioned it, because all the referees, of course, are big fans of the Rangers rabble as well. So now that you've mentioned it, you've just gave them the ammunition. You know what I mean?
I'm just marking their cards so they know we're looking out for them.
Cammy, David Morrison again says, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what players do at other clubs, it's what he does at Rangers. So let's kind of move on to a more positive side of this. What can John Lundstrom do? In fact, before we get into that, is he coming in here to be a first-team player, or is he a squad player, or does it depend on what happens with Ryan Jack, or are we going to look to sell somebody now? So if you could answer the 5 questions in order, that'd be great.
Right-sided number 8, first pick for me once he's up and firing. I don't think we can listen. Ryan Jack, we hope the surgery is successful. His rehab's obviously ongoing. But I don't think Ryan Jack's ever going to be in a position where he's going to be able to play game after game after game. We are going to have to manage him. So I personally think if Steven Gerrard was picking his first choice starting 11 at this moment, it would probably be Lundstrom, Davis and Kamara would be the 3. Assuming we're playing a 4-3-3.
For you, yourself, Scott, does the signing of Lundstrom mean... it could not mean anything. I'm just trying to stoke up conversation for a podcast here. But could it possibly mean that there is somebody maybe on the way out?
I think that's always an issue. Players can always leave, especially when bigger clubs come calling. But I think it's just a case of you signed him. He's played in the Premiership in England. I think he's going to be one of the first choice names in the team sheet. Also, I think, like Cammy says, Ryan Jack, you don't know what he's going to make 100%. Scott Arthur's getting on in years. So is Davis, and Kamara's still got that question mark. So I don't think it might not be the last sign in midfield probably signed, but I think because we've signed him and been after him for a while, I think he will be one of the first choice of Gaffer picks.
And a good point for CGM. I wonder where the lad Obafor will fit in. See these signings Rangers are making. I'm going to need to really learn how to pronounce names, because it's just disrespectful the fact you don't know. Taking away the footballing side, if we can look at the business side of this signing, we've just signed a potential EPL midfielder here for free. So regardless of what happens, it's a fantastic piece of business by the club, is it not?
Yeah, what you've got to remember, Martin, is we haven't just signed an EPL midfielder for free. We've signed an EPL midfielder at the height of his powers, at the peak of his career, 27 years old, for free. So if he comes to us, has a couple of decent seasons, looking at the business model that Rangers are looking to play, we keep him till he's maybe 29, 30. We can't lose money on the man, because he didn't cost us anything. We're currently talking about the money we could make on Glenn Kamara because he cost us 50 grand, and I don't want Glenn to leave. But if he does leave, we'll make a fortune on him. We could do exactly the same with Lindstrom, because he's come here for nothing. But for that to happen, we need to make sure he doesn't run out his contract like he has just done at Sheffield. And I don't think he'd be allowed to do that. The way we run, I don't think we'd be allowed, because I would fully expect that in his Sheffield United contract, there's probably a clause he could leave if they got relegated anyway. So either way, he was going to probably be leaving them anyway. But yeah, I think it's a tremendous piece of business. And to answer your points that you threw at Cammy, I think he will be a regular starter in the team, because we'll be paying him a decent wage. So for a club in Scotland that are paying a player that kind of money, he really has to start on a regular basis. But we've got that many games coming up. We've got that many games coming up the first half part of the season that nobody's going to play every game, with the exception of Goldson, because he just plays every game. It's just what he does. Because there's going to be league games, European games, hopefully. for the first 8 weeks of the season, we'll be playing every 3 or 4 days. So they're going to need to be managed. Otherwise, come the turn of the year, everybody will be burnt out. We really can't afford that.
Well, just on that point you've made, and you mentioned Goldson, and I've seen comment after comment after comment about Goldson, so we will come to that, and I will bring that to you first, Cammy. We had, I can't find the comment, but it was basically along the lines of, Cammy, that he'll be on a decent wage at Rangers now, so there's no way that he doesn't start. But does Gerrard work like that?
No, I don't think he does. But I think there'll be an expectation that we're paying him, say, 30 grand a week, that he is going to start 80% of the games. I think we'll bang on. I think there will be rotation. I think Jack, when he comes back in, Jack can play the Davis role. I think you want players that can be multi-purpose, that can play 6 and 8. But I don't think Steven Gerrard looks at his starting lineup and thinks, he earns 10 grand a week, he earns 30 grand a week, I'll play the 30 grand a week. He puts the players in the park that he thinks are going to do the job. But I think he'll be one of the top earners. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think the gaffer will be interested in it, to be honest. He probably doesn't even know.
Probably not. The way the Rangers are run now. Morelos and Kamara were bought for a combined 1.05 million. They will go for incredible profit, but Lindstrom and Sakala will replace them on free transfers. Great business by the club. And that's the point, Scott. That this is the way that Rangers are running. This is the way we are run fantastically well. We've brought in 2 players, like Andy says, for $1 million. We'll get great business off them, and now we've got 2 excellent players on a free.
You have to run like that nowadays, Martin. You can't spend willy-nilly. 1, we've not got the money, and 2, the wages other clubs play around the country in England and stuff is phenomenal compared to what we can. So you have to look about bringing players in for either free or cheap amount of money, like Golson, like Kamara, and then when they do well for a couple of seasons, if you get good offers for them, you sell them on and bring other players in. We've done it in the past before with players like Boomsong. Then it kind of failed away, and then we started doing that model. But we have to do it. A lot of clubs do it, and we're no different from anybody else. You have to do that to just to keep the club strong, keep finances strong. And it's not like Rangers in the past. We can't spend money we've not got anymore. So you have to go for that model. Bring players in for free or cheap money. Do a couple of seasons well and sell them on.
Was that Steven Gerrard was that Steven Gerrard on the phone to Welfare?
I think that was. I can't even say the joke. It's in the comments. It's there for everybody to see. Moving on, Cammy. I'm not really sure how to go about this conversation because I don't know the full facts. But I believe now, if you are a part of the media, whether it's mainstream media or fan media, if you now want access to press conferences, player interviews exactly, there is a fee involved. Can you explain more, please?
To be honest with you, thanks for putting that one to me first. My understanding is that as you say, if you want access to the press conferences, interviews with the manager, pre-post match, there's a sizable amount of money to be paid, and that includes fan media. With regard to that, I think it's termed a media partnership. Other than that, I don't know the ins and outs of the deal. I don't know why Rangers have done it. I think there's been a lot going on within media over the course of the last 6-9 months. I think certain publications and people have had their fingers rattled or banned for pressers or whatever it may be, access withdrawn, that sort of thing. So I don't know if this is part of that. Rangers are obviously heavily pushing Rangers Television as the place to go for content, which obviously is within the club's right to it only helps us, sort of thing. If more people sign up to Rangers TV, I can see both sides of the situation. I think what happens now is Rangers, for example, do an interview with Nicola Katic on Rangers TV, I think at the start of the week, and within an hour, one of the papers already had lifted all the content onto their own platforms online. I don't see this media partnership changing that behaviour. So that is going to continue. I don't know how Rangers stop that situation from happening. My overriding concern with regard to it is Rangers TV going to ask the questions that potentially a journalist is going to ask? My big frustration is around Connor Golson at the moment. We're 10 days into pre-season training and we still don't know what's going on. I mean, I understand the club don't have to tell us, but I think we're all concerned that Connor Golson hasn't signed his new contract. Now, the club may be super confident that by the start of the season he's going to sign, which is great. Nobody will be happier than myself, but I expected more from the Steven Gerrard interview that was on Rangers TV last weekend. I was very disappointed by the line of questioning from the boy at Rangers TV. I just think opportunities were missed to ask a wee bit more. It was very much a puff piece interview for me, and I'm not expecting him to drill Steven Gerrard into the ground with regard to questions, but I think there was opportunities to ask a wee bit more, which I think the supporter quite rightly want to know answers for.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's something we'll get into in a minute as well. But for your reaction then, there's positives, negatives. What do you make all in then about media being charged for access? Because, I mean, I don't know, this might go back. Look, 10 years, we've had a lot of shit off the media, a lot of nonsense. We've had to ban reporter or reporters, not an actual BBC. I want to make that clear. But what's your thoughts of this overall then?
I don't know any more than any of the rest of you. I mean, most of the information I know actually came from Cammy, so it was him that first alerted me to the situation. So I don't really know enough about it. The thing that concerns me, as you've just said, Rangers have had occasion over the last number of years to ban certain individuals from press conferences. Right now, if they're going to charge media outlets a 5-figure sum, which I'm led to believe it is, to attend these conferences and get the interviews, I can't see any way they can dictate who can and can't come in. Mm-hmm. If they turn around to the BBC and say, right, it's going to cost you X amount of money, and by the way, you can't send Chris McLaughlin, BBC would say, well, no, we're paying the money, we'll send who we want. That's my concern from that point of view. So it's taken a bit of their own control of it. But I mean, Cammy's right. I mean the fact that you get the interview with Nicola Katic and within an hour, it's all over the media. That's what they do, not just for us. They do that for every club, and it's really, really lazy journalism. And it's only going to get worse if they're not getting direct access. And I don't really see what the club's trying to achieve with it, because okay, they'll try and get more people subscribe to Rangers TV, but the Rangers TV output could be a lot better. I mean, it's good, but it could be a lot better. There could be a lot more of it. And as Cammy said in the interviews, they're not particularly asking the probing questions. Now, to me, the reason for that could be that there's not really any point, because Steven Gerrard's not going to tell you anything Steven Gerrard doesn't want you to know. He's very, very media savvy. He's been media coached since he was a youth player at Liverpool. So you could get any journalist asking him any question on any subject. If he doesn't want to answer it, he won't answer it. So maybe Nick Thompson in the interview last Saturday that was released last Saturday, there was no point in me asking him about conflicts or about team selections or about this or about that, because he's not going to answer me. And that's not a good look on a club channel. But I don't really have an opinion on what they're doing with the media, because I don't know enough about the ins and outs and what it actually gets you and how much control the media outlets got of what goes on.
Is it, Scott, and this might come across as a completely selfish question, but believe me, it's not, because the Rangers rabble at no point at all, and I need to stress this point, and Cammy will back me up, because me and Cammy have spoken about this from day one. The Rangers rabble was never set up to attend press conferences, interview players. This was set up just so that we could sit in these 4 wee windows and talk absolute nonsense, right? But Scott, is this a wee bit of a kick in the teeth for other Rangers fan media who perhaps their dream was to set up their own fan media and get and do as good a job as they possibly could and attend press conferences and speak to players? Is this whole financial side of it a bit of a kick in the teeth for them?
I kind of agree with you. I think it is. I think it's, as yourself, you're a fan of the club. We sit here and talk about Rangers, right or wrong, good opinions, bad opinions. We talk about Rangers because that's who we love. We've loved them since day dot. And all we want to do is sometimes get access to a player, speak to a manager, speak to somebody, even if it's on this. But to charge you to do that, I think it's a kind of teeth to the fans. Some of the fans groups will take control and go to it, and that's fair enough. That's them to decide that. But other people can't afford it. So as a kind of teeth to the fans should have more access to Rangers players and stuff. I'm not saying all the time, but and the main media, because we're the people who go every week. We're the people who buy a merchandise. We're people who buy a Rangers TV, buy season tickets. When every single club package come out, I purchase that as well. We just constantly spend money on the club. The media criticises, fair enough, that's our job. But to charge them the same as the fans, media, is a bit harsh. If that's the case, I'm not 100% sure the details of that. But as house media, I know that you have spoke on that. And to be honest with you, if your Rangers TV was on 24/7, 7 days a week, a lot of people would purchase it, especially in the UK. I know it's abroad, it may be on longer, but in the UK you would purchase it. But as for the interviews, you're always going to have that. It doesn't matter what club team it is, with their own house TV, in-house interviews are always going to be soft approach, because they're not going to drill their own person when they work for that company. So, and they probably will find these questions are premeditated, or pre-put down before even the cameras start rolling. So that doesn't really bother me. The questions they ask, because it's going to be soft anyway. But as for the media side, I think I'll have to actually check to see what the full details are. But I think it's a kind of teeth to some fans group, because like yourself, Martin, you started this up, no intention of profit or just talking about Rangers with a bunch of guys that some of you probably never knew or never met and thought was this. So, and I appreciate that. So I think Rangers should have looked at that as well and just said, even every so often, invite fans in once in a blue moon just to get involved a wee bit, because that's all we're really asking for at times.
Yeah, Cammy, it's a tough one, right? Because you can't say that he should pay, he shouldn't pay, this should happen, that shouldn't happen. But has the mainstream media kind of brought this on itself a little bit?
Potentially, yes. I mean, I think it's not just the sports media that we've had an issue with over the last, certainly over the last couple of months. You know, I mean, I think the way that our club is reported compared to other clubs, I think we are treated very, very differently. When one of our players or manager or supporter, it's always the language that is used is different, sort of thing. So I think that the so-called friendly journalists and the good people that are within the media organisations, I think are potentially, they will suffer as a result of the actions of editors, news editors, never mind sports editors, sort of thing. And I think that could be all part of Rangers' thought process with regard to this. But to go back again to what Will said, I don't see where charging is going to change the behaviour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, either not going to have access to interview Steven Gerrard or James Tavernier or whoever it may be, but they're still going to have the ability to lift the content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they subscribe to Patreon with Heart and Hand, for example. The Lundstrom interview for the other day, or Nicola Katic, Rangers TV, that ability to do that, and they'll do it for Rangers, they'll do it for the other side of the city, they'll do it for whoever. It's lazy journalism sort of thing, you know. It's but I just don't see what Rangers are going to ultimately gain from this.
It's also something. Sorry, Martin. It's also something that's happened for a lot of years, because I mean, even going back 20, 30 years, there was always journalists at club AGMs, because they buy because the publication holds a number of shares in the club, just a handful of shares in all the publicly listed clubs, so they can attend AGMs, so they can hear what goes on, you know. And that's not going to change. So, as you say, Cammy, they're going to get subscriptions to Rangers TV, you know, and that's the easy way to get hold of the information that they need. You know, I mean, what would do Rangers TV an enormous favour is if they could get back to the way they used to be and actually be on the television. No, I mean, if you go back to the days of Setanta, Cammy, you're maybe too young to remember Setanta being a whippersnapper.
I remember it.
But you know, Rangers TV used to actually be on your TV, and I know it's probably a difficult thing to do now. I don't know how all that works, but there must be a mechanism where they can have it on the platform, because people would pay for it, no problem, you know. Mm-hmm. And that would probably help. I mean, it mystifies me that Rangers fans still engage with the popular media, you know, the normal mainstream media, because they never really have got a good thing to say about our club. And it is, a lot of it isn't down to the sports journalists. I actually feel sorry for some of the sports journalists, because some of them are actually decent guys, but it's all as Cammy says, it's the news editors and news hounds that report what we do. Everything we do is wrong, but if somebody else does exactly the same, it's not nearly as bad. But I mean, we've covered that ad nauseum, so we won't go back over that ground.
Can I just say, CGM says, look, I am too tight to pay for Heart and Hand. Listen, I subscribe, Cammy. I don't know if you do. I don't know if you do, Wolf. I don't know if you do, Scott. It's up to you to say whether you do or not. For the price and people might just say, oh, look, you're part of the fan media. What you get for the price of Heart and Hand is absolutely phenomenal, and to me anyway, it's excellent.
It's the best £2 a month that I spend, to be honest with you. And it's I would encourage anybody to sign up to it for the content. It's spot on. It's got me through many a working day.
Yeah. I
mean,
it's podcast. I really good.
I mean, it's worth it even just for the daily update. You know, I mean, if you're paying £2 a month, you're getting for that? You're getting 20 daily updates. So what's that? 10p a day. You're not even buying a sleazy paper for that. You know, and you're getting all the Rangers information in one place.
And do you know what? If signing up to Heart and Hand allows David Edgar the ability to still have contacts at Rangers and be in at press conferences, for any Rangers fan out there, that can only be good news. But this isn't Heart and Hand, so I'm going to move on very, very, very quickly. Scott, we've got about 2 minutes left. I've got a dog who's going to absolutely have its nut. So, and it feels like I'm saying this every week, by the way. This dog's going to be the end of my podcast career. Connor Goldson still hasn't signed a new contract. As quick as you can, should we be worried?
Probably. I can see where Connor's coming from. He's gave us a couple of seasons. He's been playing really well, Mr. Consistency. If he can double or treble his money getting back to England, he's going to look at that. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he signs a new deal. But as you know, football's a short career at times, and if you get 2 times your wages somewhere else, you're going to have a look at it anyway before you consider anything else. And it's just the life of a football player. There's not many players that stay at a club for years and years anymore.
Cammy, should we be worried?
Yes, I think player and agent are both hedging their bets with regard to what's. It's been a slow transfer window. Obviously, Euros and all that sort of situation. I think things will start to pick up over the next few weeks. But I would say that only my opinion, if I was Steven Gerrard and Ross Wilson, if he hadn't signed the contract by the 31st of July, you have to start. You play 2 different centre halves. Simple as that, and you sell them because we cannot allow Connor Goldson to leave for free.
No, we definitely cannot. CGM 6 centre halves doesn't work. Someone has to go. We could be putting 2 and 2 together here and getting 18, but Goldson hasn't signed a new contract yet. A lot of the fans are worried. Should we be?
Yes, I think the reason we've still got 6 centre halves is because we don't know what's happening with Goldson. Because I fully expect one of those 6 to go out on loan and one to be sold. And I've got my own thoughts on who it will be, but that would depend on Connor Goldson staying. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, if Goldson stays, I think we sell Edmondson and put Simpson out on loan, or put Katic out on loan. You know, but obviously we don't do that. If Goldson goes, I don't think we sell another centre half. We put one of them out on loan and we keep 4. It all depends on what's happening.
I expected the same thing to happen with Connor Golson that happened with James Tavernier. I thought as soon as Tav signed his extended contract, a matter of days or weeks after that, I expected Connor Golson. Tav's obviously commented on how he can't wait to play in the Champions League alongside Connor. Is he privy to something that we don't know? If that is the case and he's had conversations with his vice captain, I would then say, why has he not signed the extended contract?
Yep, I mean, for me, even if he signs for a year, has a go at the Champions League and looks to leave in January when he's got 18 months left, it won't harm the money that he can make. He'll only be 6 months older, and he'll have Champions League experience, all being well when we get into Champions League. So, but that would rely on him signing a contract, because if he doesn't sign a contract, as Cammy says, we have to sell him before the end of this window, because we can't afford to be in the position that Sheffield United were with John Lundstrom, that come January he can just talk to anybody. We can't afford to be in that position.
No, and Curry Muncher, unless he digs his heels in, that's true.
And Curry Muncher, then you've not got a choice.
Well, Curry Muncher was asking how long he's got left. That is a year. I think that's why we're all panicking. Thomas Moran's just put how many fans at the Real Madrid match. We covered that earlier on. The answer is we don't know. So we'll finish up there, guys. If you're watching, like I say, on YouTube, please do subscribe. Let all your bear pals know. We've got 40 to go till we hit 2K, and I promise you I will get better at speaking as the weeks go on. I'm just back for a 2-week break. If you're on Facebook as well, we're trying our best on Facebook. I'm hopeless with it, so help us out by following us on Facebook and on Twitter. And Cammy, just very quickly, we've got a competition running now on Twitter. If you could just let the people know what it is, how to go about it.
I basically signed Alfredo Morelos A3 print of just after he scored against Porto in the Europa League. So it's available, and the draw will be made for that on Flag Day, the 31st of July. So it's the pinned tweet on our Twitter. So just go over and follow the very easy to follow instructions. Tag a couple of bears, and you may be lucky on the 31st of July and win a piece of hand-signed Morelos memorabilia.
I couldn't have put it any better myself. So head over to Rangers Rabble and have a wee look at that. So until next Thursday, in fact, no, what am I talking about next Thursday? We've got match reaction on Saturday. We didn't even have time to talk about the Tranmere game, guys. I tell you, we're getting worse. So we'll see you back for match reaction on Saturday. If you don't catch that, we will be back next Thursday. As soon as the season kicks in, we'll be back to 2 podcasts a week. So it's all kicking off. So until next time, speak to you soon.